This is our time, and most importantly, the main news at this hour. In the studio, Andrei Sinitsyn. Hello. One person was killed and 19 were injured as a result of a Russian attack on Vyshhorod in the Kyiv region. This was reported by the head of the regional military administration, Nikolai Kalashnik. The Russians used drones for the attack, one of which struck a multi-story building. Rescuers managed to evacuate 146 people. The fire's already been extinguished. Local authorities are working on temporary housing for the evacuees. Our correspondent, Nikita Skoblikov, is currently at the scene. Nikita, welcome. Tell us everything you've managed to find out. The floor's yours.
Hello to the studio. Unfortunately, I can't say good morning. As you can see behind me, the building damaged as a result of last night's Russian drone attack. It's not the only one. According to the police, this is the second apartment building that was damaged in the Kyiv region, and it's also known that 14 private houses were affected. A market nearby was also damaged. Just this morning, local residents were planning to go there. It's an ordinary civilian market where people were planning to buy and sell goods, but Russia got in their way. We continue to document how the Russian Federation's army, supposedly under the pretense of attacking military targets, keeps striking peaceful civilian infrastructure. And regarding this building behind me, as the residents told us, a Shahed drone hit the second floor, and as a result of the fire, the blaze spread from the second to the sixth floor. The entire stairwell was completely burned out. We can see the aftermath of this attack, so to speak. Windows are shattered, window frames and balconies are literally on the ground. We see fragments of wood, window frames, and water bottles that were just blown out onto the street. We managed to speak with the local head official, as well as with state emergency service employees. And here's what they said.
This is already the second night in a row that Vyshhorod has come under heavy shelling. Tonight, in particular, a Shahed drone struck the building at Zaporizhzhia 2. We are now standing on the front side of the building. The main damage was sustained on the rear side. 2 stairwells were almost completely burned out. Unfortunately, there are fatalities and many people have been injured. We are providing all possible assistance to people. Right now, we are convening an emergency session of the City Council to allocate funds for people to rent housing. For those apartments that unfortunately are no longer suitable for living. We are also providing one-time financial assistance so that people have some means. So they can rent a place to live for a while, buy food, and cover basic needs. At this point, the fire's already been extinguished.
The fire's already been put out. At night, as a result of Shahed drone strikes, a fire broke out from the 1st to the 6th floor in the building entrance. The firefighting was complicated by the fact that special equipment couldn't access the building from either side. That's why rescuers had to enter the building and put out the fire floor by floor, opening apartments and extinguishing the fire in each one individually.
It is known that there's 1 fatality in this building. Also, at least 18 people were injured and 11 were hospitalized. According to the president of Ukraine, Russia used about 120 attack drones for the strike last night. Back to the studio.
Nikita, thank you for the detailed report. We were joined live from Vyshhorod by our correspondent, Nikita Skoblikov. He was reporting on the aftermath of the Russian attack. Such strikes happen every day. For example, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy reacted to the Russian attack on Vyshhorod in the Kyiv region last night. The president expressed his condolences to the relatives of the deceased and noted that there were also wounded in the Dnipropetrovsk and Kharkiv regions. The Russians also struck the Odesa, Sumy, and Kherson regions. In total, there were 122 attack drones last night, as well as ballistic missiles and 2 rockets, Volodymyr Zelenskyy emphasized.
Such strikes happen every day. Just this week, the Russians have used almost 1,400 attack drones, 1,100 guided aerial bombs, and 66 missiles against our people. That is why every day we must strengthen Ukraine's resilience. Missiles and air defense systems are needed, and we also need to work actively with our partners for the sake of peace. We need real, reliable solutions that will help end the war. Thank you to everyone who's helping. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
There are also victims of Russian shelling in the Donetsk region. 2 people were killed there as a result of an enemy strike on Lyman. The Russians dropped 2 aerial bombs weighing 500 kilograms each on Slavyansk. 1 person was injured, 8 private homes, a cafe, and an administrative building were destroyed. There are also wounded in Kramatorsk. In Kostiantynivka, a Russian FPV drone struck a civilian car. 3 people were injured. In total, 11 settlements came under enemy fire in the past day. In Donetsk region, there were 1,500 strikes recorded along the front line, and 29 civilian facilities were destroyed in residential areas. Of these, 16 were residential houses. A 4-year-old child was wounded as a result of a Russian attack on the Pology district of Zaporizhzhia region. This was reported by the head of the regional military administration, Ivan Fedorov. According to him, Russia shelled the region more than 500 times in the past day alone. For the attack, the aggressor used aerial bombs, drones, artillery, and MLRS. Rescuers received about 20 reports of damage to homes and infrastructure facilities. 2 people were wounded as a result of an attack by the Russian Federation on the Dnipropetrovsk region. This was reported by the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. 4 districts of the region came under attack. For the attack, the Russian Federation used drones. As a result of the shelling, private and multi-story houses, as well as passenger cars, caught fire. The Nikopol district also came under shelling. There, gas pipelines and a power line were damaged. In the Vlavryd district, infrastructure was affected by the destruction. All the fires have already been extinguished by rescuers. The Kharkiv region was also shelled by the Russians. A 52-year-old man was wounded there. Strikes from 2 drones hit the private sector. Fires broke out. A residential house and an outbuilding were burning. 15 rescuers and 4 pieces of equipment were involved in dealing with the aftermath of the attack. 2 people were also injured in Kasachalopon. A Russian strike hit a civilian car. The injured were hospitalized. Last night, the Russian Federation launched 2 Iskander-M ballistic missiles and 122 Shahed-type attack drones at Ukraine, Jaren, and other drone modifications as well. This was reported by the Air Force of Ukraine. According to preliminary data, 104 Russian UAVs were shot down or suppressed by electronic warfare systems. Today, an American delegation led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio will hold a meeting with the Ukrainian team. This information was confirmed by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Special Presidential Representative Shosty Witkoff and Jared Kushner, Trump's advisor, will also take part in the meeting. Representatives from Kyiv and Washington will discuss the plan to end the war that was proposed by the American president. The Ukrainian delegation is headed by Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, Rustem Umerov. The delegation also includes, in particular, First Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Serhiy Kyslytsya, and the head of Ukraine's main intelligence directorate, Kirilo Budanov. Ukraine has synchronized its sanctions with the United States and imposed restrictions against Rosneft and its enterprises, as well as companies from the Lukoil Group. This was announced by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Key priorities for Ukraine's sanctions policy through the end of this year have also been determined. According to the head of state, this concerns the preparation of the 20th sanctions package by the European Union, strengthening restrictions against the Russian shadow fleet, military production, collaborators, and propagandists.
Ukraine is also imposing sanctions against Russian killers who are systematically organizing the destruction of Ukrainians with drones. We will make these sanctions of ours effectively joint with our partners so that the world puts pressure on the aggressor in exactly the way needed to weaken Russia's ability to wage war, and so that Russian killers truly feel that there is pressure. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, president of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Putin must agree to a ceasefire. Otherwise, Russia will face new sanctions. This was stated by the head of MedFrance, Jean Albero, in an interview with La Tribune. According to him, Moscow is interested in Trump's peace plan because of its failures on the front line. Arad explained that in order to hide its own defeats, Russia deliberately attacks civilian infrastructure and residential areas in Ukraine, and he emphasized that the Kremlin faces a choice: either agree to end the war or face new sanctions.
The Russian army's millimeter advances in eastern Ukraine come at the cost of enormous human losses. Every day, more than 1,000 Russian soldiers are killed on the front line. Putin must either agree to a ceasefire or accept that Russia will be subjected to new sanctions that will drain its economy, as well as increase support for Ukraine from Europeans. Jean-Noël Barrot, head of the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in an interview for La Tribune Dimanche.
NATO was created to protect the West from Soviet and therefore Russian aggression. This was stated by Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. He added that the foundation of the alliance is solidarity, not selfish interests. Tusk expressed hope that nothing has changed in this approach. Ukraine and Norway have agreed on joint production of Ukrainian drones. The documents were signed by Ukraine's Minister of Defense Denis Shmyhal and his Norwegian counterpart Tore Zandik. This decision will allow for expanded production and strengthen Ukraine's defense. The next stage is the launch of a pilot production line in 2026. Work to increase capacity will be carried out in parallel. Both sides emphasize the importance of the project for strengthening cooperation and defense capabilities. Ukraine will share its experience and innovations with Norway. In turn, we will gain a strong production facility that will supply our soldiers with modern drones. In addition, we can look forward to research and development cooperation with leading Norwegian institutions. This project is an example of the kind of collaboration we are building with our partners. This is cooperation that strengthens the defense capabilities of all countries in the free world. And thank you to Norway for your support. Denise Shmyhal, Minister of Defense of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.